Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. And today I'm just essentially going to be holding up some things I've added to my musical collection this year because the holidays have come and gone. When people ask me what I want, don't generally have a lot of ideas, but always happy to get some new records. Now, let's start with three, which users on this channel may be familiar with because I have made videos about them. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. Originally had this out from the Toronto Public Library. Don't like every song on this one, but there were a lot of exciting discoveries for me on it this year. I mean, rediscovered Sir Duke. Saturn is one of my new favorite songs just because I've always had a relationship to the planet Saturn. Love's in Need of Love Today. Summer to Soft kind of grew on me after the fact. A lot of good stuff. Classic Grammy-winning record. Then Phil Collins's Face Value, most famous for the song In the Air Tonight. But then the discovery that really grew on me, it must not be a very popular song because when I've looked up chords for it, for playing it on guitar and simple piano, they're kind of hard to find. There are fewer options than with a lot of songs by famous people. But the song is Thunder and Lightning, really great Phil Collins song, really stuck with my head through the years. And I've not published the review for this one yet, but I also had it out from the library, did a review, Paul McCartney's Ram album. It's full of fun. It was a bit of an adjustment to my listening preferences because all the songs are a little bit weird, but you know, now Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey is a song I just can't get out of my head. Monkberry Moon Delight, so dark and silly. Wait for the video on this one. It was a fun thing to review. Now, I have a Walkman. Compared to my collection of records and CDs, my tape collection is fairly small, and luckily my wife got me a couple of cassettes to add to my collection. So I got this box set of Roy Orbison love songs. Don't know how famous Roy Orbison is these days, other than being the guy who sang Oh Pretty Woman, but a very interesting songwriter with an incredible vocal range, one of the truly great talents to come out of the 50s. And then he worked with the next generation of singer-songwriters when he was in the Traveling Wilburys supergroup with George Harrison, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and Jeff Lynne. Got this Beatles box set. I have, as I've mentioned many times, the Beatles' Greatest Hits Love album, but that focuses more on the second half of the Beatles' career, whereas this has a lot of the early hits on there, like She Loves You, Yeah, 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 I Want to Hold Your Hand, Hard Day's Night, etc., as well as some things that I imagine are just like commentary tracks. I'll have to see when I listen to it. And finally, I got this Johnny Adams, Room with a View of the Blues. Don't know much about Johnny Adams, but I heard him played randomly on a radio station, and I remembered that sounded good, so it was a nice coincidence that Andrea picked this one out. Andrea knows that despite listening to a lot of Stones this year, again, thanks to the public library, I don't have any Stones records. The one she was able to come across is this one, Sucking in the 70s, and it has this sort of abstract expressionist, possibly crude picture of a 70 on the back. I guess it's Robert Motherwell's Elegy to Spain, it reminds me of. What this one is, it's not a greatest hits collection, though it does have Beasts of Burden on it. It's more of a greatest misses collection. It sort of summarizes songs from the second half of the 1970s of the Stones. And one of the reviewers for AllMusic says it's actually a better capturing of the sound of the Stones during that period than the ones that try and be greatest hits collections. And I looked at the tracks on here. There are a couple I haven't heard or don't remember, and everything I did remember listening to, like Hot Stuff, the opening from their Jam album Black and Blue, pretty catchy. And then finally, Old Rockin' Earn. So a 50s, I think, kind of a country singer. Don't know any of the songs on this one, but I do know Tennessee Ernie Ford, the singer here, because of his famous song, You Got 15 Tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't call me, 'cause I can't go. I sold my soul to the company store. Then to wrap up the musical gifts I got this year, I got Ziggyology. I mean, it's hard to know much about what this contains, a brief history of Ziggy Stardust, but I think it's about this idea that David Bowie, especially earlier in his career, he did not perform as David Bowie, which was already a stage name. He performed as this character, Ziggy Stardust, which was an embodiment of the ambition for fame, the want to be a star for its own sake. So I imagine this will be an interesting look at one of rock and roll's more philosophical, artistically educated figures. Now, because I was not a music tuber a year ago, I thought I'd quickly go through my equally cool music presents from last year. So firstly, a Sweet CD. Sweet were a glam rock band in the 70s. Their most famous song is Ballroom Blitz. And I'm way in the back today, everyone attack, and they turn into a ballroom blitz. And I had this one friend who did a great karaoke version of it. And then I heard this other hit song of theirs, Fox on the Run. And even though I think it's about a groupie, I kind of got into it because I thought of it as being about a literal fox. And it's just this great spacey synth mixed with this great choral, high-voiced rock and roll singing. And then they have another great one on here. Does everyone know the way to Blockbuster? Again, not about the video store, a bit too early for that, but that's how and I'm sure I imagine a lot of contemporary listeners relate to this stuff. Another video is about to come out is the video I finally made on this one, Jimmy Cliff's soundtrack album, The Harder They Come. A lot of great reggae stuff on here. Jimmy Cliff's voice is very distinct and high, but then they include some other bands that were in this movie that Jimmy Cliff acted in. As you saw, I got a David Bowie present this year, and I wanted to make sure I had some good David Bowie records last year. I already had a CD of Ziggy Stardust, but I think arguably his most enjoyable album is the one before Ziggy, Hunky Dory. It has two of my absolute favorite songs on it, In Changes and Life on Mars. Coots can also be an inspiring song. Oh, You Pretty Things, a very interesting song. This is David Bowie, less as glam rock star, though you wouldn't know that from the cover, and more as singer-songwriter. It's a great record if you haven't listened to it in full. And I also wanted Aladdin Sane, which is a weirder record. This is the one because the art is so good. It's maybe the best album cover of all time that people think of as Ziggy Stardust, but it's actually the sequel. The songs on here are a bit messier. I really like the opener, Watch That Man, but I have to listen to live versions because the studio one, they had a hard time mixing Bowie's voice. So I kind of wanted this one just for the art, but there's plenty of interesting avant-garde piano playing on the title track. Interesting record for sure. Another thing I asked for that year was a chromatic harmonica. It was around this time last year that I was really getting into Stevie Wonder, and I wanted the challenge of learning an instrument. And unfortunately, I haven't had the energy, but unlike a lot of harmonicas, which once you've played them for a bit, become quite intuitive because they're only in one key and you can just sort of hear the melody in your head and match them to whatever you're playing. With a chromatic harmonica, you really want to have to work on it. It's the instrument that classical and jazz harmonica players would play. And essentially what you do is you use this pump here to add sharps and flats to your playing. So you can play, any kind of song within reason on in here. And in popular music, Stevie Wonder is the most famous chromatic harmonica player. Anyway, that was a bit messy, but chromatic harmonica, hope to work on it more this year. And finally, again, for my wife, Andrea, this really cool guitar pick case. It has my name on it, and it contains these wooden picks, and she had to pick something to put on it. So two of the three of them say my most famous song, Sensitive Mustache. Really cool musical haul from 2 years of wonderful musical presence. It's great to hold up all this stuff and just live in a room full of musical references. I'm Zach Morgenstern. That's Ludwig von B. See you next time.